Bowser, the malicious King Koopa himself, writes touching haikus to deal with his harsh rejection. He has a sensitive personality that he desperately tries to hide through harsh dialogue, but the truth was always there, and it culminates in this vulnerable bonding moment with Mario at the game's climax. Also, there's a clinically psychopathic antagonist Booster who rides toy trains in a tower playhouse, whose primary motivation for marrying Princess Peach is to eat a cake. Tasty.
Is that the humor and amazing script you remember from Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars? Because it's one of the biggest hits that you and I all cherish. But there's tons more. So join me in timing the button presses perfectly as we examine all the hits in the first half of the Super Mario RPG Retrospective. Good to see ya. This is Shep from Gaming Introspection. Hey, if you enjoyed this retrospective on Super Mario RPG, please check out the channel and the other videos I've done, including the pilot episode, Super Mario 64. If you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you. Now, let's get to the hits. You know the term best of both worlds? That's what this game provides you with. It's a rare example of a game that successfully merges two genres which are quite polar opposite in many ways. Let's look at the RPG portion first.
If you're experiencing this after playing any regular Final Fantasy game, then you'll feel at home. While the story is very family-friendly, it does try and encompass the whole "world is going to be doomed" theme that most role-playing games need to borrow in order to garner player motivation. There's a party of 3 characters, it's a turn-based battle mode where you have an infinite amount of time to make a decision, and characters have standard statistics like strength, speed, magic, and defense, which all improve after fighting enough battles and leveling up. Everything is very streamlined, however, as you're simply told what level characters will learn their new moves at. There's really no strategy or management required. Still, the way things play out is convincing of standard RPGs. Numbers pop up all over the screen as damage is incurred or health is replenished. Characters can attack with a plethora of weapons that exude Nintendo-ness, from hammers to cymbals to frying pans to Mario himself. Or the party can use special moves that consume flower points instead of magic points. Although, interestingly, the party shares the amount of flower points, so you can't go too crazy with special moves. This system also makes you very motivated to explore the world and find extra flowers to increase your total stock. Defending, using items, and fleeing like a coward are also available, so every major staple of RPGs is present here. In future games, like the Paper Mario series and the Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, the RPG elements were either toned down or thrown out altogether.
And while we're at it, let's hear a big shout out from all the hardcore fans of Paper Mario Sticker Star! Yeah! No? Anyone? Anyone at all? Right. Okay then.
But here, the genre standards are rock solid. While it's definitely a beginner's RPG, the stats and such do still matter. Geno will be your go-to for quick attacks, as his speed is the best, while you'll have to wait for most of the enemies to act before letting loose with Bowser and his sluggish gait. Peach has OP healing moves, Mallow is a weak marshmallow, but has many elemental spells, and speaking of which, elemental weaknesses apply to different foes, including bosses, like Croco being susceptible to fire, or Bellome becoming paralyzed by thunder. And you have to at least have some basic common sense when deciding your attacks. Having Mario jump on spikes, or shoot fire at fireballs, for example, well, that's just dumb. There's also status effects that you can deliver onto enemies and have afflicted onto you, which do impact your decisions at times. Peach can put enemies to sleep or silence them, which even works on some bosses. However, you aren't spared the torment either, as you'll get turned into mushrooms or scarecrows, shiver in your plumber booties by getting scared, poisoned, and silenced. Complementing these battle system tropes, though, are action commands that you can use to increase the power or even the amount of attacks you land. Timing your button presses can give you critical hits most commonly, but can also give you multiple jump attacks, increased healing ability, or even instant kill powers. With practice, you can master the timing and routinely benefit from the bonus effects. It's definitely rewarding, and also very frustrating when you miss one after lots of time with the system. Jumping around the overworld in an RPG is almost unheard of, but it would be even more unheard of to not be able to jump in a Mario game. So you can much more freely explore the world, which has a lot more verticality and openness compared to a lot of fixed 2D towns and plains that most RPGs of the time were accustomed to. The world is littered with hidden things, like blocks with coins and items to jump on, including some within the towns you'll visit. Even hidden cameos like Link from Zelda: Link to the Past show up when you sleep at an inn. You nimbly advance through obstacles and hazards, and even dodge battles entirely by jumping away from enemies. Speaking of, there's no random battles. Encounters happen only when you contact enemies, much like in Chrono Trigger. So you never have to go into a battle blind, though you will still get ambushed at times. Building on this, many of the minigames, and even some plot pieces, incorporate the platforming skills and fast reflexes Mario games had been famous for. Highlights include the minecart, which requires quick jumping and abrupt turning in all of its Mode 7 glory, as well as the efficient use of turbo mushrooms for speed boosts. And the Mountain Hill Chase segment, where you're jumping on Sniffets trying to pursue the princess while barrels randomly roll down the cliffside. It's actually quite reminiscent of Donkey Kong.
Never mind. Here's a much better example of that.
Speaking of classic vids, you can even buy a Game Boy-like toy from this kid in Mushroom Kingdom and set high scores in this Space Invaders-style arcade game. An avalanche of divergent tasks await you. You can explore places outside of the field map and find rare collectibles, most notably the legendary fertilizer, which makes this ungodly beanstalk sprout through this geezer's chimney, allowing you to find Mario's ultimate weapon, a fat Koopa shell. Side quests abound, like buying and trading fireworks for a shiny stone, which then enables you to fight the toughest boss in the game. The fireworks themselves can even affect the ending. Buy more of them to change the final kaboom that appears in the game's ending. Spectres haunt Mario's sleep to make him go on a treasure hunt for invisible flags. Yoshi attempts to beat Boshi in this ridiculous rhythm race that I cannot win! I can't even pass the training exercise! Someone tell me what I'm doing wrong here! I'm alternating perfectly with the symbol and rhythm of the music! But that bastard Yoshi, he just stutter steps with supreme suckage and barely even moves! Oh. And speaking of bewildering failures, some rewards are just not worth the aggravation. Here's a simple frog coin that you can use to purchase some rare items. I'm trying to jump to it, but I just can't do it. I approach it from every side, every angle, fall and jump and fall and twist and turn and do it all again in a slightly different fashion until I expel rageful words that are unfit for YouTube. Look at this one. It should be a simple jump, but this lava just sends me right back. Thank God for cartoonish physics. I wonder if this is what made them think of Mario's reaction to landing in lava in Mario 64, which came out only a few months later. Still, it sucks.
So there's plenty here for fans of both genres, and I really think that this is one of the best attempts ever made for pleasing fans of two completely different backgrounds. Kudos!
This was so unexpected when I first played this game. Mario games hardly ever even had text in them, much less a script until now. So I expected the most dry, forgettable dialogue in any RPG ever. Damn, was I wrong! There are moments that are literally laugh out loud funny. Most of them revolve around Booster, a secondary antagonist that kind of pops up throughout the story and randomly inconveniences the heroes.
He's almost like Wario, except if he was even more insane and incoherent about the events that are occurring around him.
He makes the most ridiculous assumptions, has next to no common sense, and just seems to be in it for the thrill of experiencing chaos. You go after him, entering his own tower that he named after himself, in an effort to rescue Peach, who coincidentally landed there after Smithy's sword destroyed Bowser's Keep and sent Mario, Bowser, and Peach flying in different directions. There's a few ridiculous events that arise as you progress through this mystifying structure, including an absolutely random 8-bit Mario cameo. Okay, well, what was the point of that? This all culminates in a hilarious hide-and-go-seek game, where you need to keep Mario hidden behind the curtains as Booster sends his grunts to find you. It's also cool that your success or failure results in different outcomes. You either get an awesome stat-boosting amulet if you succeed, but if you're caught, you have to endure an extra boss fight. After being foiled, he runs off, setting in motion the exhilarating mountain chase I mentioned earlier. Booster keeps his stealing the princess to get married thing in motion as long as he can, with his entire motivation hinging on the promise of eating an entire wedding cake. And when he ends up making Peach cry, an emotion that is absolutely foreign to him, his best guess is that she must be leaking. He's totally out of his mind! The ceremony concludes with Mario attempting to find Peach's wedding gear that goes flying around the chapel after Mario and Bowser break in, the success of which either results in the classic hero gets a kiss from the fair damsel, to Booster or Bowser, or both, making out with the fat plumber, whose face apparently feels like sandpaper. Yeah. Another funny minion is this dodo bird, who you have to try and fool into thinking you're a statue by jumping out of the way as he pecks them. It's timed perfectly to this rhythmic composition, and your smile widens as the music helps you figure out the right timing. Please observe the orchestrative genius behind this segment. The mere concept is so outlandish, it makes you want to get into the developer's mind to figure out how they came up with this randomness. But it's also so well designed and put together. The music itself acts like a guide to help the player with their jump timing. There's consequences for failing too, similarly to Booster, as you'll have to endure another boss battle before the main encounter at the end of this segment, while you'll get a speed boosting feather if you prevail. Bowser, he captures the spotlight too. He's an absolute buffoon in this game, joining the party early on, desperate to reclaim his castle. He hams it up with a witty dialogue that shows a predictably narcissistic personality, but also a sensitive side of the villain that no one up to this point in the Mario saga ever would have expected. He shudders at the prospect of Mario finding out about his diminished power. I mean, Bowser was just a mean, fire-breathing bad turtle that Mario always fought against, and didn't have any hidden layers to him. In this game, he's more like Shrek than he is the king of the Koopas. He writes haikus, second guesses his own dialogue choices, wishes his former comrades the best of luck with their new lives as he embraces change. And as we said, might end up even kissing Mario at a sham wedding. But even if that doesn't happen, he accepts Mario's consolation after being ignored completely. It's not just the main cast either. Random villagers are given personalities and quips that differentiate them from bland NPCs of most games. Even compared to games today, they're better developed. This shopkeeper loses his mind when Mario jumps on the counters. And when Mushroom Kingdom is under attack by Shy Guys, that same clerk has the audacity to request proper amounts of coinage being left behind by any patrons, since he lacks the courage to man his station. At Marrymore, there's a young mushroom kid who desperately needs to take a piss. The game pretty much tells you in no uncertain terms. And sure enough, he can't take in the ceremony because his bladder just cries out, "No more!" 80-year-old geezers speed talk when you bring them items they want. Mushroom Kingdom toads show shameless greed upon finding lost coinage, and elders get tortured by enemies if you fail to give in to their demands. Of course, it's a Nintendo game, so the game of torture here is being tickled to death. But man, it's hilarious seeing more and more thugs go in there because Mario just keeps being a selfish prick. If you do this though, you get a single coin as a reward when you finally save him. But if you do the honorable thing and sacrifice your star right away, you get one of the best power-ups, boosting your flower points. So it's cool that they thought of changing the reward up based on how sadistic or kind-hearted the player wants to be. There's even crazy hidden things that take advantage of what players expect from RPGs, some of which are surprisingly hinted at being inappropriate. At the beginning of the game, you can barge into the princess's room and wow. First of all, what a boring room, right? It's basically a rectangle with a fireplace and a bed that looks like it's made for something much larger than a human. Anyway, you examine this nondescript area by the fireplace, and it says, "Found princesses." And then the housekeeper rushes at you and chastises you for this invasion of privacy. The princess herself can flare up at Mario too later on. I mean, yeah, I guess, what a creep. But come on, how was I to know that this white rectangle was a forbidden shape of indecency? And what the hell is it? The game never says. Was it just her diary? Undergarments that weren't put away correctly? What do you think this could be? What? Peach says, "Stop peeking into other people's rooms." But I've already been in her room for the last 5 minutes. It says so, right there. Is this like a secret entrance to her dark side bedroom? Is this where she switches with her evil twin? I don't even want to know anymore. Actually, since we're talking about impropriety, what in God's name were the developers thinking with this Valentina boss? She's a nasty, horrible, abusive, animal-hating woman with a queen complex. She spreads this lie that Mallow's parents are on their deathbed, and then somehow convinces the people that this giant black dodo bird is the long-lost prince, who, for no reason, asks her to marry him just so she can usurp the throne. She just uses Dodo though, forcing him to be her slave, performing every menial task imaginable. Just look at this repressed anger finally spilling over. Mario finally catches up to her to give her due punishment, so we enter the battle and...
What? Why is she like 20 feet tall? She looks only slightly taller than Mario on the field map. Is it supposed to be for us deep thinkers? Maybe it's like we see Valentina as she sees herself. She thinks she dwarfs every other life form in this world. We're just puny ants compared to her. So, the game transfers this line of thinking into an overwhelmingly huge sprite. Okay, well, maybe if we just kick her ass, it'll free herself of those delusions. My God! First, it was Luigi's protruding genitalia, and now there's jiggling in a game marketed towards children, ages 6 and up to be precise. And so I come back to the question of why the developers made her so huge for this battle scene. Well, I guess that's the answer. A very disturbing answer. Make the bosom very ample, but also enlarge her into a giant so it really pops. It's a horrifying, awful answer that will disturb my sleep, but there it is.
Peach's room, as we saw, is huge but bland. So let's look at a more extravagant room. In the Marrymore Hotel, you can stay in different quarters, including a very expensive suite, by far the most costly hotel in the game, with its own private shower, in which Mario sings his own theme song. There's a terry cloth bathrobe he can't even wear because he's too fat, which is cute, and a bell for room service that you can actually take advantage of. But the thing I'm talking about is something even some old school players may have never found. In most RPGs, if you don't have the money to stay at the inn, it'll just flat out say you don't have enough cash. Like in Chrono Trigger, for example. In Mario RPG, if you decide you deserve to hang out and have an all-inclusive stay at this suite, living a life of luxury for 5 consecutive nights, you try to leave, and then the manager confronts Mario at the stairs and realizes Mario's broke. So you're forced to work as an employee at the inn until your debt is repaid.
This is just so unexpected and awesome.
You have to wait behind the desk for a while until guests appear, and when they do, you have to give them the whole tour of the room. It doesn't just skip by in 2 seconds. You actually have to work off the balance, which scales by how much debt you accrued. There's single mushroom people just wanting to splurge, couples ready to consummate their recent marriage at the Marrymore Church, which talk incessantly, making Mario impatient. And check out Mario struggling with his muteness as he bounces around like a tripped out drug addict, trying to explain to the guests all the amenities they have available. He must be damn good with sign language, because you can earn mushrooms for tips. Or even flower boxes for being nice to this old fungi dude. That's one of the most valuable items in the game, and you can get it by doing some honest work, which ironically only presented itself if you were dishonest in the first place. It's just amazing they'd even think of this. Square creates the most bizarre, fantastical world where people can stand on clouds, climb up 5-mile-high beanstalks, and make wishes come true on stars. But when it comes to the finances and debt repayments of the hotel industry, the game slaps you on the wrist and demands that you comply with the Mushroom Kingdom laws and statutes. That is awesome. Actually, inns in general have more variety than most RPGs. The Nimbusland Inn allows Mario to have different dreams when he pays an extra fee. And I laugh every time this merchant who lives in a volcano charges Mario 30 coins to rest, telling him, "I'll get everything ready for you." And then it cuts to Mario lying face down on some dusty wooden boxes in a volcano that's probably 50 degrees. And that's one of the most expensive inns in the game. Finally, Mallow has a very fun move called Psychopath. The spell's primary purpose is to show you the remaining health of an enemy, but if you time it right, you get to look inside the varied personas of every single enemy in the game. It gets addicting to find the most unique enemies and see what they're thinking. You get allusions to Donkey Kong's likeness when you investigate this big monkey. Some wooden humanoid carved enemies crave the meaning of life. Employees show their silent fury at how little they earn. Random ant samurai warriors are just living in the moment with their poignant thoughts. Peaceful-looking stars disclose a secret hatred towards an unknown entity. And buff, strong bosses that you'd think were brimming with confidence reveal the fear they have that these could very well be their last moments in this world. Some are just so ludicrous. In the climactic showdown with Exor, the huge sword that crashes into Bowser's Keep, reading its mind reveals that all it's thinking about is how it needs to mow the lawn sometime soon, while its mouth, it's suffering from isolation and loneliness. You can also use it to scan for weaknesses. Even the final boss of the game reveals some juicy details you can exploit. Sometimes, though, it's just a bad pun, or so nonsensical it's pathetic. But honestly, the fact that they included separate thoughts for every enemy in the game, differing even between the palette-swapped versions, has to be commended. There's a reason why Geno was among the most wanted characters for 2 decades in the Super Smash Bros. Universe. And we still haven't gotten him! Just a lousy Spirit Battle and Mii costume that was repeated twice over.
Geno is just so bizarrely original. He doesn't even seem like a character that would belong in a Mario game.
Despite being basically a living doll a la Pinocchio, he's actually an alien life form from a distant realm with an unpronounceable name, taking the alias Geno for short. This guy rocks! He's much more serious than the other characters, providing excellent contrast to the rest of the manic personalities, and he gives the game what semblance it has of a story, explaining the importance of the Star Road and Smithy's destruction of said road, which is preventing wishes from coming true across the entire world. He's also a blast to use in battle. This guy is the fastest, with amazing attack power, the best overall stats, and some amazing skills, like a magic wand that you can charge up to really kick some ass, a remarkable offense and defense buff spell for those tougher encounters, a self-transforming cannon shot that obliterates enemies, and his signature move, Geno Whirl, that with the right timing, instantly kills any regular enemy in the game. Keep this in mind when we get to the misses next time though. Even his regular attacks are badass. He has hook punch combos that look kinda like the boxing attacks in Wii Sports, and various weapons that shoot bullets of increasing size out of his fingers and elbows. He's invaluable in any conflict, because he can quickly wipe out regular enemies while boosting players in tougher boss fights.
I just can't believe Nintendo never got around to using him in any other game, in any capacity. And don't give me that, oh, Square developed him, so it must have everything to do with copyright.
Cloud was made by Square. Has he ever been on a Nintendo system before? On a Nintendo game with Nintendo characters? Yeah, that argument holds no water. Geno is amazing! I wish he would at least show up as an Easter egg or an NPC in something like Paper Mario. But alas, we're still waiting for the Geno Renaissance to occur. But here's what I don't get. Once you save the world, Geno gets surrounded by the stars you've been collecting throughout the journey, transferring himself out of the doll, allowing him to revert to his original energy form as he ascends to the heavens.
He dies! Kind of. Did this death affect you as much as Aerith in Final Fantasy VII? I'm sorry. That wasn't even in good taste. There's no way you could compare the... Yeah, I apologize.
Anyway, he leaves the lifeless Geno doll behind and soars up into the sky. And this is all accompanied by the expected triumphant music and spectacle, but then this happens!
Was that the last act of Geno? Was this his true purpose? To fly into the atmosphere and then sacrifice himself to make this D so that the game could truly be over? What kind of a last act is that?
At least when Aerith died, she did so summoning holy magic to battle Meteor. Geno was ready to relax on vacation, but then realized the programmers didn't know how to end the game, or they didn't know how to goddamn spell. spell the word end. So he ends it all just to create this D and some Mario lullaby music.
And this is why Geno never returned in any other game. He died honorably, making sure that this game and all of its players could have that finality moment. Rest in peace, old friend. Geno ends Super Mario RPG, and it's a perfect way to wrap up this half of the retrospective. There's so much to enjoy in Mario's first role-playing adventure, and I hope that this has stirred up some nostalgia for you. Tune in next time as I shift my lens from innocent and rose-colored to harsh and scrutinizing, as we investigate the misses that unfortunately leave Mario RPG with a few scars that haven't aged nearly as gracefully. Take care, gamers, and I'll see you soon on the next episode of Gaming Introspection.